And the series Reconnecting with a Healthy Lifestyle was produced with support from the USC Annenberg Center for Health and Journalism and the Dennis A. Hunt Fund for Health Journalism in collaboration with the National Native News. Now, welcome back to The Line. The UNM Athletics Department was back in the news this week again. If you want to see our previous line discussions about the finances of the department, go to NewMexicoInFocus.org. And Merit Attorney General Hector Balderas is raising questions about an internal investigation of the Athletics Department. Pardon me, please. And particularly that this last round of investigation was presented orally, right, to the interim president, Chowkey Abdallah, and the Board of Regents, but we have no legacy of what was said. And a lot of folks find that very problematic if you're going to get to the bottom of things. How did that strike you?
Well, yes, and just basic minutes taking 101, that's right. Kind of beyond the pale. In a state that purports to have sunshine laws, right. That seems to be violations of several transparency statutes. Mm-hmm. I think it also
is it good enough or not good enough for you that the interim president said this was about something else entirely? Or is he saying that, don't worry about it, to the AG's office, don't worry about it, this was about something else? Would you still rather have been on paper? Or does it,
well, to me, if it's no big deal, it's about something else, offer it up and show me.
Yeah.
Show me that it's no big deal. You're a publicly funded institution, and all the open government laws apply to you.
Right.
So smoke and mirrors at a regents meeting that's not okay, and I think citizens of New Mexico don't support that. Mm-hmm. What's very troubling is UNM has always been held up as our preeminent educational institution, the largest, right. most prestigious, and it seems that we just can't even run our own programs.
It's interesting, isn't it? Transparency is a big word on campus, right? We've been hearing this for a couple of presidents now. You see what I mean? It gets problematic if you're really trying to get to the bottom of something. How did this hit you, Eric?
Well, we were talking about not envying the new president coming in because, there's a lot of cleanup work to be done. And right. This is a major national, international, arguably, institution. It's not just our flagship institution. This is, UNM is really vying to be an R1 institution for research, for grants, and so on. And it has to lead, not just in the research and the academics, hopefully in sports, but that's a mix. But it has to lead in terms of how it conducts its own business. And right. I don't envy Chowkey Abdallah because there's just this chronic sort of culture of sort of kind of wild west. I think it seems to be concentrated in the athletics department, but it's been in other places. To be fair, I think it is much more prevalent in that area.
Right.
For whatever reason, culturally, we think about the Lobos and sort of giving them a little freer rein. I don't think it's an indication of the pervasive sort of lack of transparency in the rest of the institution. I know that Chowkey's really tried to address some of that, and I think the new president's going to be top of her list. But we've got to stop deferring to this sort of, we want to be pro-Lobos, we want to support our sports program, and giving them, I think, a lot less oversight than is sort of prudent, I think, for taxpayers.
Right. There's a level of acceptance that is dissipated.
We all sort of look the other way. They're different, right?
Right.
If we were talking about the medical school here, everybody would be up in arms. But for some reason, the athletic department seems to be a squishier set of rules.
Yeah, it's a good point. Tom, it all swings back to athletics, as Eric mentioned, and specifically Lobos, and specifically this time around with our coach. And the university has hired a lawyer that's an ex-Department of Ed, muckety-muck there. A lot of allegations floating out there about Bob Davie, and it seems almost a little unfair, meaning either you come up with something that's on paper that we can all kind of parse, or you stay quiet about it. Do you know what I mean? Until it's finished, one way or the other.
Well, I think what we're seeing play out locally is the same thing playing out nationally,
right.
In different subject matter arenas where it's very easy to make an accusation,
right.
Without due process being, followed through. And I think, I like Coach Davie. There's no but. I think probably whatever he is accused of doing, he's probably been, didn't do it. And so I think that there's a culture, to Eric's point, a culture at the University of New Mexico that needs to be fixed, because it isn't just isolated in athletics. They're just the popular, that's the one that has all the cameras on it right now.
Right.
Because if the leadership has allowed one particular issue to fester in one department or one area, chances are the other department heads have been looking at that going, oh, okay, so that's the threshold of what we can get away with.
That's a good point.
And that's pretty dangerous.
Exactly right. So if I get athletics, in the broadest sense, what frustrates a lot of people is athletics get so much money and so much notoriety, and the pushback always is, well, we carry the school financially, almost insinuating that it's okay if it's a little loose. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're getting all this money, why don't you stay off our neck a little bit?
There is some question, at least nationally, about whether athletics is in fact a net contributor. One of the things I think is interesting about this situation, and I think leads to the complexity that we've been talking about around this table, is that we are seeing policy issues and personnel issues sort of intermeshed. And my sense, not obviously having been in the room when Judge Black delivered his verbal report on his investigation, my sense is that there are personnel elements. There are personnel elements with what's happening with the law firm that's been brought in, looking at Coach Davey, et cetera. And you do have to be quite careful with what you reveal from people's personnel files.
Okay.
And so, would we like to see every last thing? It seems like we would. However, there are protections for employees that have to be adhered to, and so what I think unfortunately the school has to kind of tiptoe around is if they say, well, this is employee, we start to point fingers at who we think employee is, and I think there's a really challenging balancing act that they have to deal with that. Now, that said, I'm not feeling particularly like defending UNM athletics. I think that they did play fast and loose with money for quite some time. There are concerns about coaching policies, and all of this effort and all this time and all this focus, just like always seems to happen with athletics, pulls the discussion away from the academics what's happening on that side.
That's right. Interestingly, Daniel Libet from NM Fishbowl, who's been out there doing amazing reporting on all this, he's wrapping up his tenure, so to speak, and folks are wondering if the Journal, other people are going to pick up the cudgel, so to speak, because if you think about it, all this was laying there, Merritt, and just took some enterprising reporter to just make this work. Larry Barker, of course, with the famous Scottish golf trip and all, he got this going. Your sense of that dynamic between the press and the university now, this could be very interesting for a couple years to come, because folks are looking now, and you never know what's going to turn up now that the press is really sort of on the trail.
That's certainly true, and I think just the sloppiness that we've seen by athletics, and I feel like if you want to be a research institution, that's cool, but if you can't, invoice for your box seats, how are you going to manage millions of dollars in scientific research funding? It all shows badly. I think some of the hiring efforts and faculty replacement has suffered because of this, because the power of the press. Folks coming to this state who want to work in academia, they're doing research. That's what their job is. They're academics. And so if the news is not good, I think it's going to affect our ability to recruit. Now, whether anybody picks up from New Mexico Fishbowl, we certainly have so many other blogs and investigative news sites. The Journal, it's the hometown paper. We don't want UNM to look bad.
That's right.
But I think the Journal will step up as it has in other
Jeff
issues.
Grammer's done some interesting work over there. His byline's been fascinating, Eric. And I say again, when you think about all the issues that are there, it could be bottomless in a certain respect. And the new president's going to have a slog for the first year or year and a half of her tenure. When you really think about it, it could almost swamp a university's idea of what they're there to do, for gosh sake. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we have to sort of decide how we want to define ourselves right now. This is, again, a major institution economically in terms of our national reputation and so on. And, we all love the Lobos, and that's sort of the mascot. Sort of literally and figuratively.
Unless you're an Aggie, I feel like I need.
Well,
to
I'm an Aggie too.
that.
I'm an Aggie too. I'm saying, but if you're a sort of, if we hold it out to be the large institution that it is, and it's all the good work it's doing, a medical school, law school, and so on, but do we want to be known as sort of having the athletics lead this? And this is going to be a challenge for the new president. And a lot of, sort of rank and file Albuquerqueans and New Mexicans, that's kind of what it's about. And they, getting into the weeds about curriculum and research and grants and all that, unless you're inside the university, that's less relevant to you than this idea of the public face of the university. But I do think getting back to a focus on the core mission of what a higher education institution is supposed to be for the economy, for the citizens, given their relationship with the labs and so on. I hope that the new president will sort of shift the emphasis to remind people, look, this is what a university is supposed to do. It's not about who the coach is, and it's not about what's happening in the latest drama in the athletic department. And I think that's a shift that has to happen.
That's right. 20 seconds if you could,
Yeah,
real quick.
just to weigh in on the
Please.
question you posed to Merritt about the
Yeah.
relationship between the media and the university. I think that there's a very tense relationship between the traditional media, KRQE, Albuquerque Journal, and the university. The challenge here is with bloggers in general. Bloggers do not have an editorial process that traditional media have. So I think that whenever we cite bloggers, we need to just cite that this is information that's one person's perspective. While they're probably very much integrity filled, they do not go through the same editorial process as you see with traditional media.
I appreciate that more than I can tell you. Right on. Now, when we come back to the line, we'll discuss the announcement this week that the Public Education Department is looking into potential interventions at 4 underperforming elementary schools.